Lobries and Gentlegrams, in today's episode of Lobry in Gentleland, we gotta unpack the long, laughable legacy of the lullaby litigator, the prom queen petitioner, the snappy song snatcher pulling pitifully pathetic practices on his peers. And today, it's time to tell the tale of the Taylor Swift twin, the teary-eyed toddler, the weepy whimpering wonder kid, the sob story specialist still swiping sounds and taking tracks a decade later, possibly persisting in his pilfering pursuits 10 years down the line. Now let's start in the beginning of 2025. Once the short-statured sharpshooter, the samurai-sized slaughterer Kung Fu Kenny clobbered the Canadian crybaby, the future for the Fruit Loop fraudster phoning Montana, the maple syrup mob boss, started looking miserable. Will the sexy red stunt double simp of sad boy rap continue his calculated chart-topping con jobs, or did the 4'5" feet whipper flatten his fraudulent fame and fry his career to oblivion for good? Well, things began looking brighter for the belligerent, balding, bearded, BBL boasting buffoon when he dropped his new album, Some Sexy Sleepy Lullaby Love Songs for You. While the album may have not garnered the praise that his previous albums did, it did accomplish the number one thing that Drake cares about: garnering the hits. In fact, this new album gave Drake his first hit since the hip-hop hitman Kung Fu Kenny kicked this beef off over a year ago. Drake's last real hit was First Person Shooter, the catalyst that got Kendrick to say F the big three, it's just big me, and that was released way back in October of 2023. His big red button, Family Matters, officially dethroned Meet the Grams as being the lowest streamed song from the entire rap beef, and with Drake releasing almost 15 songs after the beef ended, it was the first time in the history of Drake's career that none of the songs he released cracked the top 20. And this put Drake's career in a very dangerous position, right? Because at the same time, you had Kendrick releasing Not Like Us, going 8 times platinum in less than a year, performing at the Super Bowl, dropping GNX, that album outstreaming all of Drake's albums from this decade. The ending of this beef marked the first time since 2017 that Drake was not on the Billboard charts. So he needed something new, something somewhat innovative, something to prove to the world that he still got it, and that he officially survived the storm. And on an album full of sleepy, sexy songs, there shined a glimmer of hope. Got this groovy, sing-along pop song that perfectly balanced tapping into nostalgia while also blatantly catering to the TikTok algorithms. And while this might not be his Not Like Us, it might not be as big of a moment as many of his major hits in the past, this Nokia record fits snugly into the formula that Drake has used for all of his biggest dance crossover hits like Hotline Bling, Tootsie Slide, and In My Feelings. The blueprint is very clear: a minimalist, hypnotic beat, a catchy yet repetitive hook, and a delivery that straddles a line between rapping and melodic singing. And this was just the anthem Drake needed to distract the public of the loss he took and go back to the regular scheduled programming of delivering the hits. Akademiks even pointed this out, that whatever happens with this new album, Drake's label will count it as a W because he delivered us a hit in the same vein as a catchy TikTok song like Tootsie Slide, or a bounce-heavy viral hit like In My Feelings, or most notably, that meme-worthy, nostalgic element that he captured on Hotline Bling.
It's been a while since we've gotten like a Hotline Bling. What does that mean? Drake has been known to kind of get these little cheesy songs. Like, Drake was making songs of TikTok before TikTok. The latest attempt, I think a lot of people feel like fork in the road, was Tootsie Slide. Like, people start looking at, bro, you're 35 doing Tootsie Slide. This doesn't make sense. So these little cheesy songs that kind of work and like is mad catchy, if you don't do it right, they just consider him cringy and they call him old. Drake, in my opinion, with Nokia, did the best thing he could possibly do.
And if you break it down, Nokia almost seems like a continuation of Hotline Bling. Both of them are centered around cell phones. He's desperately trying to win back one of his love interests, and it's all on the backbone of this catchy, club-ready formula. That's why on his most recent tour, Drake was even walking out to Nokia and transitioning it into Hotline Bling.
Is that your bestie? Hold on, wait. I know everybody's asking, who's calling my phone? I want to take them back to the first time. I want to take them back to the first phone call from the first time we were here. You know what I'm talking about, right?
So it's safe to say that Nokia might be Drake's comeback hit. Safe to say that this might be the new Hotline Bling. And the irony lies in a couple things. Number one, every time Drake engages in a rap beef, his comeback always lies in one of these dancey formulaic songs. After his beef with Pusha T and Kanye, you had In My Feelings. Tootsie Slide didn't come after a beef, but it could be considered a comeback single since that was the first big hit Drake released 2 years after his album Scorpion. And then Hotline Bling came right off the heels of his beef with Meek Mills. It's the easiest play, right? Get a cheap, quick pop hit if everyone's questioning your credibility within hip-hop. But what if I told you that 2 of these massive comeback singles might have been stolen? What if I told you that Drake might have stolen Nokia and might have stolen Hotline Bling from the same guy? Or he might have not. We're gonna establish that, but these allegations all come from an artist by the name of Drum. And to understand whether or not Drake stole these hits, along with several of his other biggest records, we gotta take things back to 2015. Now, why 2015 is important is because this is where Drake's authenticity truly got put into question. Meek Mill hopped on Twitter one day, exposing the fact that one of Drake's greatest albums wasn't actually written by him. And then you had reference tracks leak for damn near the whole album. The intro track Legend was written by PARTYNEXTDOOR. Tons of the songs were written by Quentin Miller, like Know Yourself, 10 Bands, 50 bands, 100 bands. Even his feature with Meek Mill, Rico, was written by Quentin Miller. And on a side note, drop a comment if you guys want a full breakdown on everything that went down between Quentin Miller, Drake, and Meek, because that's a story in and of itself, and Quentin Miller's got a lot of talent and a crazy story, and I don't feel it gets enough shine. But yeah, this was when Drake's authenticity truly got put into question, and people wondered, like, if all of these records were written by Quentin Miller, how many more songs has Drake either stolen or gotten written by someone else? And it wasn't discussed as heavily before the whole ghostwriter Quentin Miller debacle went down, but really before that whole situation and after it, there lies a long pattern of Labri taking as little as a couple bars to as much as an entire flow from other artists and using it on his own songs. And again, I could do a whole separate video just on this subject alone, breaking down the literal dozens of times that Drake has taken either a flow, a cadence, a bar from another artist. Drop a comment if you want a video breaking all that down, but we'll go through a couple examples here from the very early stages of Drake's career all the way to years after the entire Quentin Miller situation went down. I mean, even as early back to Drake's first real hit that put him on, Best I Ever Had. Many people overlook this, but the entire cadence of the chorus was basically taken from a Lil Wayne song back in 2008. This is Best I Ever Had. We could do it real plenty bigger than you ever done it. And this is the Lil Wayne song called Do It For The Boy. And you know what, as a matter of fact, if I don't get copyrighted, here's 20 other times that Drake has jacked something from another rapper. And again, before we do, obviously there's a difference between blatantly jacking someone's song, not giving them credit, versus taking inspiration and paying homage. The core issue between Drake and Drum is that the line was kind of blurred between remixing, taking influence from, or blatantly stealing. But we'll touch on that shortly. First, we'll cover a couple other instances, and you guys be the judge on whether Drake just leverages his inspiration to put a unique spin on some classic records, or if he's got a bad habit of pulling a heist on your favorite artist. So, a lot of times as well, Drake will take lyrics from a famous song or a famous artist and pay homage to them in an indirect way to try and prop it up like this entire thing was him just showing respect, right? So you have an example on the song The Motto with him and Lil Wayne, where he raps, I'm in the building and I'm feeling myself, rest in peace Mac Dre, I'ma do it for the Bay. I'm in the building and I'm feeling myself. That's a direct flip off of Mac Dre's song, Feeling Myself. And you might be saying, all right, like this is just paying homage, again, just paying respects, but there's a lot of repeated themes of Drake doing this over and over again. And it's the large quantity of times that he's doing this that is the problem. He did the exact same thing with Eminem's song Superman on his own song Chicago Freestyle. I do know one thing, no, and they come, they go. And then here's Eminem's song. Do know one thing, no, chickens, they come, they go. And the problem is, like, there's some kid out there who really thinks Drake invented these classic lyrics, right? He did the same thing with Juvenile's song Back That Thing Up on his own song Practice. I was growing up around this time. I was maybe like 14 years old. I'm a white dude from Canada, right? Like, I had friends who thought that Drake invented the whole Back That Thing Up bar. Like, I had to explain to them that this was a thing on Cash Money before Drake was even on Cash Money. And we saw him do the exact same thing on DJ Khaled's song For Free, where he took Too Short's song, Blow the Whistle. Of course, sometimes he's not just taking lyrics from a classic rap song, he's literally taking a rapper to write classic lyrics for him. And we all know the story of Quentin Miller. This wasn't just one song or two songs. It was damn near half this entire If You're Reading This Is Too Late album.
10 bands, 50 bands, 100 bands.
You want to hear more? All right, let's do some more. I mean, I might get copyright striked here, but hopefully not. Yeah, here's him copying his favorite artist, The Diddler. Well, actually, The Diddler's artist, Mace.
Who's hot, who not? Who's hot, who not? Who flop? You tell me who flop.
Here's the first single off his first major label album, Thank Me Later. Copying direct bar for bar off another classic track. Here's him copying Erykah Badu off the classic song You Got Me. And I love Erykah Badu, not just because of this song, not just because of her output, but also because she called Big Mac's Akademiks a chipmunk, or Jerry from Tom and Jerry. Here's him taking some lyrics from The Diddler once again.
Ain't nobody hold me down. Ain't nobody hold me down.
Here's him stealing some Project Pat lyrics.
I'ma be downtown, man. I'ma be downtown, man.
And it was basically the entire first part of this verse that he stole from Project Pat. Here's him taking some more Weezy lyrics. Here's one he actually got in trouble for. Before he got in trouble for saying, you know who really bang a set, my guy YG, he was on YG's song Who Do You Love. He directly copied Rappin' Forte's song Players Club, line for line, and we'll touch on, he got in a little bit of trouble for that.
She got a buddy named SB12, now you know the deal.
So with this song, Rappin' Forte was not okay with Drake just taking his lyrics, even if he was paying homage. He actually charged Drake $100,000 for using the bars, and when he was asked if Drake paid, his manager Frankie Dre said, hell no. He also criticized Drake's approach, saying, you jack a person's lyrics and you don't even make a phone call? What kind of game is that? That's not hip-hop. And then eventually Rappin' Forte himself posted a public invoice for $100,000 on Twitter in May of 2014, and by 2018, Rappin' Forte put the royalties up for his song Players Club and Who Do You Love. He put them up for auction via royalty exchange, and the bids reached around $38,000. So you can see here with Drake's approach, like, he's not actually hitting these guys up before using their lyrics, and you'll see that how it's emphasized even more with Drum's Hotline Bling Cha-Cha Slide issue. But first we gotta touch on more of Drake's stolen bars. So you got his song Child's Play.
Like a soldier.
On Bedrock,
I gotta watch my bag.
He copied Aaliyah's lyrics. On I'm Upset, he copied Beyonce's lyrics.
To the left, to the left. To the left, to the left.
On T.I.'s song Poppin' Bottles, he copied another Lil Wayne lyrics from his song Pop Bottles. On his song Miss Me,
Tell me what's really going on.
he was directly copying Soulja Boy.
Tell me what's really going on.
That's why Soulja Boy said, I gave Drake everything, his swag, word for word, bar for bar. He copied my whole thing.
Back up in this thing, I'm ready. What's happening?
Soldier boy up in this thing, I'm ready. What's happening?
And he also copied Nelly on Effin' Problems.
Drop down and get your eagle on.
Whew, that's a lot of examples, but we are not done yet, Lobbies and Gentlegrams. There's plenty more examples of Drake biting Lil Wayne lyrics. I'm going to try to post them here if we don't get copyright stricken.
I got your dream girl riding in your dream car. Got your dream girl riding in your dream car. She wants me, she wants me, she wants me, she wants me. Tell me what you don't see, tell me what you don't see.
Of course, there was the whole debacle with XXX. Drake had previewed a track called KMT in Amsterdam, which copied the exact same flow of XXX's breakout song Look at Me. And X got on Twitter the next day and said, I'm not going to Twitter rap with guys stealing my flow. I slap guys. Don't come to Florida. It's funny how the industry let this P-word guy sit at the top for so long. Now this P guy trying to play it safe and play it innocent. But we all know Hotline Bling was a bite of Cha-Cha. And yes, we do, XXX. We are going to touch on that later in this video. That's what the whole framework of this thing is all about. And Drake responded in an interview with DJ Semtex a couple months later in February of 2017 saying, I listened to Look at Me and I'm like, okay, I see where people could draw this comparison. It's crazy that people think I'm the type of person to go and take that and make it my own. I'm not stupid. I'm not a crappy person like that. And then X said, if Drake is going to take the flow, and I don't know if he legitimately did, but at least reach out to a guy, help a guy out in this situation. Adam22 had also confirmed that Drake reached out through DJ Carnage, who I believe goes by Gordo now and is still around Drake. He reached out to DJ Carnage about X, so he did know about XXX. So what Drake was saying was a bunch of cap. And they had a whole back and forth longer than that, right? And that song obviously came out. Drake is copying X's flow word for word, bar for bar, without actually acknowledging X in the process. And as far as X's disdain towards that, well, that's a rabbit hole for another video. We touched on the Quentin Miller stuff as well. Of course, there's the whole Weeknd situation where the Weeknd feels like Drake took his best songs from House of Balloons and slapped them on to Take Care, and not just featured the Weeknd, right? Because the Weeknd is on one of those songs, but a lot of them Drake just took the whole song and just sung it himself. And this is an early Weeknd, right, who didn't really have much buzz or exposure at the time. So of course, lending a hand to Drake seemed like the right move, but in retrospect, he took some of his best songs off of his project, off of it, to give to Drake for his own project, which is now viewed as Drake's classic, largely in part to those classic records that the Weeknd gave him. And there's plenty of other examples that we have not touched on, frankly, because there's just too many, right? But of all the stealing, nothing seemed more subtle and strange than Drake's situation with Drum and the way he did him. Was it disrespect? Was it intentional? Was it even stealing? Well, let's dig deep into the root of this situation. So, in an Instagram video from May of 2017, you can see Drake dancing to the song Cha Cha by an emerging artist by the name of Drum. Extremely corny dancing, which has not gotten any less corny 10 years later. But you can see this isn't even Drake taking the video, right? It's just Drake caught in the act, vibing out to this song on May 30th, 2015. This is when life was good for Drake, right? He just had his most critically praised mixtape. If you're reading this, is Too Late. No ghostwriting rumors, no Meek Mill beef just yet. He's out in this club vibing to this random song by this random guy, Cha Cha. Over the early months of the summer, the song Cha Cha starts blowing up. Beyonce dances to it on Instagram, and that's when the song really caught legs and started fully taking off. This became a full-fledged hit, right? Before Hotline Bling, before nothing, this song actually became a breakthrough hit for this brand new artist. Then, of course, July of 2015 rolls around. We get the Drake and Meek Mill beef. Drake comes out on top of the battle, but the war, that's debatable, because obviously this stain of having a ghostwriter attached to your legacy did not necessarily do wonders for Drake's career, and arguably did a lot more harm than back-to-back did good. But the smartest thing Drake did was he knew he had to come back with not just a smash hit diss record, but a hit record that could touch the people globally and make the entire world forget about these ghostwriting rumors, or not really rumors, facts, all right? So in July of 2015, on the music forum that I used to go on all the time, I don't know what happened to it, they renamed it KTT2, but initially it was KanyeToThe.com, an internet forum where people discussed music. I spent a lot of my days here over a decade ago. If you were around for the KanyeToThe.com days, drop a comment. I remember being there gassed up for the album release of The Game's Jesus Piece album, the Yeezus album, the 2 Chainz run. There was some fun moments on this site. So if you were ever a user on there, drop a comment. But anyways, on July 17th, 2015, a post comes up saying Drake plays new song at his barber J-Mac's wedding. And there's a link to a little snippet of the song. Of course, we now know this song as, you guessed it, Hotline Bling. But at this point, he's just at his friend's wedding, right? He's vibing out. He's like, let me take the DJ booth for a second, play some new unreleased tunes. He even makes a speech at this wedding.
I want to say that I'm proud of you for completing a union that so few of us even fathom, let alone follow through on. And when I say so few...
He says something weird about a ting here. I don't know what he's talking about.
And the craziest part is I never even told the first girl she was my ting that year.
But yeah, so we get these clips of Drake at this wedding previewing this new song on this internet forum. This is the first place that it circulated on. And already off the bat, people are listening to this 5-second snippet of the song and are hearing glimpses of Cha Cha on it. So one user says, Can't wait till the song comes out and it isn't a cha-cha remix, because another user had said, oh, it is a cha-cha remix. And they're debating here back and forth. Is it? Is it not? It's hard to tell from 5 seconds of the song, right? So another user posts, so up until he says, call me on my cell phone, and the melody rises, you can't tell me that that's cha-cha, even when his voice gets louder and he goes into, I know, ... That's clearly drum's cadence. Typical Drake swagger jacking the hottest stuff bubbling in the streets to get more famous. SMH. Can't blame him though. And on a side note, has the theme stopped repeating itself 10 years later? Well, you'll find out later in this video. But at the moment, people are excited for Drum because they speculate that potentially this is Drake just kind of remixing Cha-Cha, and he'll actually include Drum in the whole moment, right? We saw him do this with McConan on the song Tuesday. We saw him do this with Migos on Versace, Fetty Wap with My Way. This is a common pattern with Drake. And as far as his rule for features in general, Drake says that he simply depends on how well he vibes with the track itself. He says, as far as for people I don't know, I pick songs that I feel like I'll fit well on, or I have a flow for it. I like organic things that come together. Jodeci Freestyle, for example, even though it's my record, it only made sense to throw J. Cole on it because he's just been so good at rap that I wanted to hear him rap on that beat. And I know the splits were never usually great with these records, right? Like Drake would take a lot of the profits when he would just randomly jump on a random person's song. But I did like these moments a lot of the times in early Drake's career, right? Migos on Versace, McConan, Tuesday, like these were cool moments when Drake would hop on these songs, and he always elevated the experience of the music in those situations. On a side note, it's funny to see people kind of speculating what the lyrics would be for Hotline Bling. 10 years later, obviously we know what they are, but people are on here saying, call me on my cell phone late night when you need my love. I know. And then they're like, what the hell does he say next? And then someone says, I know I like to cha-cha. And Drake was going on a remixing spree all summer that summer of 2015, right? He had My Way with Fetty Wap. He had Sweeter Man, where he just basically took Ram Riddles' whole flow and redid the song. And ironically, Ram Riddles that same summer also had a song called Call Me, where the album artwork looks strikingly similar to the Drake Hotline Bling artwork. And the song itself, I can't play it, copyright reasons, but the hook, call me, it sounds exactly like you used to call me on my cell phone. And regardless of that, just Ram Riddles' whole flow here sounds like a lot of the island type music Drake was doing all of 2016 after the song was released. So a lot of inspiration to say the least. Now, this was the 17th of July 2015, and by July 25th, 2015, Beatz 1 sends out a tweet saying, used to call me on my cell phone. New Drake on that Cha-Cha remix. Hashtag OVO Sound Radio. This is at the time when Drake was doing his Apple Music deal, and he premieres this brand new song on Beatz 1 Radio, his own station, OVO Sound Radio, and they label it initially as a Cha-Cha remix. Now you have to ask yourself when you play these songs back to back, what exactly makes Hotline Bling a Cha-Cha remix? The problem was that it was very easy for Drake to wipe the credit off of Drum and not have to pay for using or interpolating Drum's work because A, the sample's different, the lyrics are completely different, the production's different, and there's a DJ Booth article that kind of points out some key differences between the two songs. So they say, an irresistible R&B cut from Virginia singer Drum that's built on a Super Mario World sample. The Hotline Bling barely resembles the effervescent shot of Summertime. It's remixed. On Drake's track, the tiny accordion-like synth from Cha-Cha has been slowed to a sluggish shuffle that resembles a cell phone ringtone, which infuses the song with the nighttime mystique and shades of sadness that the Toronto rapper-singer plays so well. So yeah, instead of the accordion loop on Cha-Cha, Drake replaces it for like a cell phone ringtone type loop on Hotline Bling. But the melody is kind of the same. Now again, the lyrics are different, the content was different, the production was different, the sample sources were different. So why in the hell did Beatz 1 originally release this? Again, under Drake's guidance, right? Because he's part of the Apple Music team. He's releasing this for them to play on their radio station. They labeled it as a Cha-Cha remix. Drum is not on the song. It doesn't make reference to Cha-Cha. The sample, again, everything is different. Where is the remix here? Well, the thing is, it's almost like, you know how you have that Drake cosign where like he'll hop on a random song, throw in a verse, do the same flow as the artist originally does, and give it the cosign, right? Blow the song up. It seems like the opposite here kind of occurred, right? You have the Migos, McConan, Versace, Tuesday, all these songs where Drake added his name, brand, and his fan base to the song that was by an up-and-coming artist, and helped jumpstart not only that song, but their entire career. Here, on the opposite end, it seemed like Drake took a song that was already buzzing. Again, we saw him dancing to it. We saw Beyonce dancing to it. And all he did was simply remove the original artist and the skeleton of the song. Unlike a Tuesday or a Versace remix, the buzz for Cha-Cha had already been there and was now on the decline as the summer faded out. The perfect time for Drake to come in with this slight interpretation or remix and have his buzz for Hotline Bling shoot up. But the song sounded so similar that some articles even said that Drake was rapping over a sample of Drum's hit Cha-Cha. And at first, Drum was actually happy about this. He had done an interview with DJ Booth in September of 2015, and he was happy to see Drake was riding his wave. He said, Drake was the first to get influenced. It's something that I would say is welcomed. I wouldn't call it a remix. I would call it an influence of the Virginia wave. But as the song would rise up the charts and Drum received no credit for it, he eventually felt some type of way about the entire thing. By October of 2015, Drum tweeted out, "Yeah, I feel like I got jacked for my record, but I'm good." And Erykah Badu replied to him saying, "We love Cha-Cha first. Very unique and raw. That's that underground magic force that sparks a seed to grow a tree." Drum also tweeted out, "For the record, Hotline Bling is not, I repeat, is not a remix to Cha-Cha." And then he ended up going on an entire rant about the entire thing, saying, "Just performed in Toronto for the first time tonight and it was bittersweet. Sweet because I'm out here sharing my music and my sound with the people. Bitter though, because after my performance, all I'm seeing is Cha-Cha and Hotline Bling comparisons on my timeline. People want to know how I feel about that? Yeah, I feel I got jacked for my record, but I'm good. I'm happy that the VA sound that me and Gab Niles are steady working on is growing, and in 2016, we're going to own it." And he definitely did. He dropped a hit with Lil Yachty, Broccoli, and a debut album. Drum is a great artist, but definitely got robbed of the opportunity to share the success of Hotline Bling, a song that he most definitely planted the seeds for. And Drake ended up commenting on it in an October 2015 interview with The Fader, where they said, Drake seems to acknowledge that Hotline Bling was based on Cha-Cha and describes the song as a modern rap equivalent to a dancehall artist recording their own spin on a hot rhythm. You know, like in Jamaica, you'll have a rhythm and it's like everyone has to do a song on that, Drake said. Imagine that in rap, or imagine that in R&B. Imagine if we got one beat and every single person, me, this guy, and all these guys had to do a song on that one beat. So sometimes I'll pick a beat that's a bit like sunnier, I guess, is the word you used, than usual, and I just try my hand at it. And that's exactly what Hotline Bling was, and I loved it. It's cool. I've been excited by that sort of creative process. Now, a couple people on Reddit pointed out the key difference here, as Drake is trying to chalk this up to him just kind of adding his own flavor to something that already existed. There is a big difference between Jamaican rhythm and what Drake was doing with Hotline Bling and Cha-Cha. So one user said, the connection between Hotline Bling and Cha-Cha is with the rhythm, not the rhythm. Being Jamaican, I had to roll my eyes with that explanation. The main difference between the two songs are the main samples. Cha-Cha has the Super Mario sample, and Hotline Bling samples Why Can't We Live Together. Meanwhile, the rhythm, composed of the drums and bass, is almost the exact same. Mainly the drums. If anything, Drake's song has emphasized the drums, while Cha-Cha emphasized the guitar. Also, this is not the same as rhythm. A better example of using the same rhythm is Lil Wayne's mixtape singles. Lil Wayne straight up taking Jay-Z's beat and rapping over it on a mixtape is similar to reggae and dancehall artists using each other's rhythm. Another user pointed out that it's possible Fader was just looking for clicks and headlines, so they chopped up a Drake quote and basically misquoted him by saying he was comparing Cha-Cha and Hotline Bling to Jamaican rhythm, when really he was talking about his song Sweeter Man, where he literally just rapped on the Sweeter Man beat, because that is more of an example of what American rhythm would look like, or Canadian rhythm, I should say, taking off, obviously, Jamaican rhythm. And Hotline Bling, obviously it took off, right? Almost becoming Drake's first #1 hit, ironically getting blocked on the Billboard charts by the Weeknd song The Hills, after a long history of Drake taking the Weeknd songs as well, adding his own little rhythm onto the Weeknd songs. And years later, Drum would speak on this whole thing, ironically, with Ovi Ho Mal and Rory from the More Rory and Mal podcast. And he would say that it was sad to him that, the song originally came out as a Cha-Cha remix, but as soon as they saw it taking off, and it wasn't similar enough to Cha-Cha for Drake to have to, pay Drum or act like Drum gave him the idea for the song, he ended up running off and renaming it simply just Hotline Bling. and of course never reached out to Drum's team about it.
Just a little shocking because it came out as like the Cha Cha remix.
As is, not really Hotline Bling. At the time.
Right.
At the time, it was the Cha Cha remix.
2 weeks. I don't know. It's just really weird. I ain't getting no reach out, no nothing or whatever.
And it legitimately started out as the Cha Cha remix. Yeah.
I believe Drum even tried calling Drake out in public about it and ended up getting into a little altercation with Drake's security guard. I could be wrong on that. But Drake would reference this in a song in 2022 called Back Outside Boys, saying, "They tried to bring the drum to me. He didn't know how we cha-cha slide." This was, of course, in Drake's phony Montana mob boss era, where he's trying to act like the tough guy here, saying that, cha-cha slide was never Hotline Bling. And like I touched on earlier in this video, right? Hotline Bling was Drake's comeback hit from his beef with Meek Mill. Yes, his diss track won the beef, but what won over the general public and the global atmosphere was Hotline Bling, a bouncy, catchy, club-ready hit about cell phones, and 10 years later, in his beef with Kendrick, Drake would take the same approach with Nokia. I have a whole video on Nokia because Drake worked on that song with a producer named Elkin, and there was a lot of rumors that, well, not really rumors, there were clips showing that Elkin not only produced the beat, but actually created the entire backbone of the song. The whole, is it Stacy? Is it Diddy? That whole refrain, that was not Drake. That was Elkin. The catchiest moments of that song were not actually created by Drake. And Drum himself felt like they took inspiration from some of his newer music as well to create that Nokia song. 10 years after Hotline Bling, Drake is still taking inspiration from Drum. So he didn't really get enough recognition for this, unfortunately, because he didn't properly post the link onto his Twitter, but he posted a link to one of his songs called Feel Good, and he said, "Don't this sound familiar?" Now, again, I have a whole video touching on this. Maybe I'll link it in the description, but it's another instance of Drum feeling like Drake took inspiration from the sound of his music to concoct a catchy hit about cell phones. The common pattern between all of these guys that have accused Drake of taking their lyrics, their sound, their production, whatever the case may be, they never get the credit or acknowledgement for it. And that's what Kendrick meant when he said, "You're not a colleague, you're a colonizer." But let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you in the next one.